I'm nervous saying it out loud. I'm nervous putting it out into the universe like this. But I'm doing it anyway.
If you're not experienced enough in the psychedelic realm, you might freak out.
Well, with that in mind, that's one of the things that scares me.
The result says, hey, how do I connect with my soul? How do I connect with the universe? And how do I make myself better on a daily basis?
What might happen to me during or after the experience?
Imagine you have an ability to see color. It's blue. But now imagine you have an ability to feel the color.
What you're saying is taking that advice to an entirely different level.
You cannot have any judgment on an individual that is going to go on the journey in order to discover something new for themselves.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Webdelics podcast, where we're on a journey to uncover the truth about plant medicine and psychedelics, get rid of the myths, and change the narrative. I'm your host, Scott Mason, and with us today is our special guest, Uzo Udu. Uzo, I am so excited to have you here. This truly is going to be a special episode. So before we get into the specialness of it all, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hey, my name is Uzo, and I am a producer. I am an educator. I teach children. I teach adults. I teach children art. I teach adults DJ skills. And then in addition to that, I also produce a festival, which is called Unrevealed, which is happening here in Miami during Miami Art Week every single year. So we're going on year number 3 now. You know, that baby was born 3 years ago, and this is how we actually got to know Webdelics, because Webdelics were part of our experience last year. So now I'm blessed and humbled to be here and speak to you, Scott, in order for us to continue having this conversation as far as psychedelics and the effects of how psychedelics change our life, affect our life, and open the new thing that is the realm of the unknown. And a lot of people don't know the realm of the unknown, and everybody is scared of it, but it's something that is going to be able to shift your life, shift your perspectives, and shift the way you're looking at things, because you're going to be tuned in with your inner soul more in depth than connected to what is around you, what is the materialistic life around you. So there's the physical realm, and then there's the spiritual realm, and the psychedelics help you bridge that gap.
I love it, Uzo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you've begun to touch on what the subject of today's episode is, but I'd like to hit the nail a little bit more on the head. Being blunt, the topic of today's episode is preparing for your first psychedelic journey. To begin this conversation, I'm actually going to take us back to the very, very first episode of this podcast. And in that episode, I talked at length about why I was so excited about being the host of the Webdelics podcast and why I felt the work that Webdelics is doing is so important. And to just remind anyone who might not have listened to or watched that episode in a while, there are a couple of things I want to say right up front. First of all, I committed to the audience of this show to, no matter what, always keep it real and to be honest. Number 2, following from that theme of honesty, as I mentioned in that episode, the childhood that I had was not pleasant. It was in a household that was chaotic, it was violent, it was confusing. And I grew into an adult, confused, dysfunctional, and very much afraid. Although I didn't express that fear externally, I expressed a lot of rage and anxiety. I had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. and was in counseling for 11 years to get myself to be where I could really feel anything remotely like emotionally intact. And I was committed to the psychedelic journey that Webdelics and its podcast represents as a way of exploring how other people could maybe resolve some of the challenges that I had, or even worse, but without having to take 11 years, which some people might not survive, to become what is possible for them, to face the unknown that you were just talking about. As the podcast has gone on, as a non-psychonaut, I was scared and nervous about a lot of the things that I would be hearing, and I was skeptical too. But as I've learned, as I've heard real stories, including probably the one that you're going to share with us today, as well as absorbed the science, my feelings about this are different. Not only do I feel like psychedelics can continue to help me push along in my own healing journey, but I also feel like they can help me, by facing this unknown that you're talking about, become more of what I'm capable of being in this world and remove other blocks that have emerged. And so I am sharing with you, Uzo, as well as the audience for the first time today, that I have decided to take my first psychedelic journey. I say that with some fluttering in my stomach, a little bit of a frog in my throat. I'm nervous. I'm nervous saying it out loud. I'm nervous putting it out into the universe like this, but I'm doing it anyway. And when you and I met, and you said that something you felt passionately about was preparing people for that first journey, I realized we had to talk. And so, hearing everything that I've just said, Uzo, what counsel can you start off by giving me?
Well, first of all, I am happy that you are going to go on the journey because it's something that is going to open up a completely new spectrum of your life. So there is life before, and then there is life after. And what happens when you have the life before and the life after, the people that you're communicating with, you are going to have a different perspective on how you look at them, even on the same people. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be the same work environment that you might be usually in. There is before you, and then there's after you. And that after you starts looking at a lot of things from a much vast, bigger perspective that is connected and rooted to the earth and to your soul versus to what you were conditioned to be. So, as you are preparing for your first journey, your first number one thing would be to identify, A, where are you going to have that journey? So, let me give you a story of where was my first journey and how did it even happen to be.
Thank you so much.
My first journey was here in Miami. It was spontaneous. I'll tell you honest. It was a very spontaneous experience. Then after that, my first experience, I found out what is the best way of how to create the setting, the environment, the intention, so on and so forth. I'm going to talk about it in a moment. But my first experience was more of like a party experience where we were in a sacred space. The venue was called Goldish. It was located at the rooftop penthouse of the Faina. And we had an event that was a cacao ceremony. It was facilitating, we were facilitating like a yoga experience, a cacao ceremony, and pretty much a wellness component that it was for all of the people in the space specifically. So pretty much, a mini 1 hour, 2 hour yoga affiliated event. So one of my friends, Organics, he was a DJ. He is a DJ. His name is Nick. He comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, brother, would you like some mushrooms?" And I'm like, mushrooms. Okay. Let me try.
Ah,
If,
sounds like some of my homeboys down the street.
right, literally, like almost similar example. But I was open to it because, hey, first of all, I've heard about mushrooms, but I've never tried mushrooms. And then at the same time, I love mushrooms, so I want to understand like what are the other mushrooms that he's suggesting that I'm going to receive. I had zero expectation, zero. I
Wow.
had no idea what I will feel, how I will feel, and anything that the mushrooms are going to give me. Mind you, like, as being a professional DJ, being in this field, being in this realm, like, you have tried probably almost a lot of things in your life while you are in this underground realm, in the basement club. You're at 5 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, there are different things and different experiences that you can experience while you're in this field, but this was a completely new thing. So he gives me a mushroom. I'm like, okay, pop in, and didn't give me what you'll feel, what you're going to expect, nothing. So I just pop in the mushroom, and we start playing the music. So we start playing the music, and during this beautiful evening, like, my feelings, like, I started to feel everything around me so intensified, like the colors become more vibrant. The smell becomes more vibrant. The
Wow.
touch, everything around me became so vibrant, and it's 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 priceless. I even have a video. We had the most beautiful sunset. So imagine we're on the rooftop. DJ booth is here. Behind us is the ocean with the Faena background and the beautiful pink, cloudy sunset. So when you're without mushrooms, you will look at the beautiful sunset. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have consumed psychedelic mushrooms, what happens is you receive the synesthesia, and all of your senses start to magnify 10 times 10. Remember the movie? It was with Marlon Wayans, something senseless, or something like that, where he amplified all of his senses, his touch, his smell, his vision. Anyways, it's a comedy movie with Marlon Wayans. I forgot, I believe it's Senses or something like that. But anyways, it's similar to that. It's that feeling where, as if you're almost touching the clouds, as if you're almost touching the colors, and you can feel those colors. So that synesthesia feeling that you're receiving is so intense. Is it To me, that was my most beautiful sunset that I've ever seen on that
Wow.
Miami Beach rooftop.
Wow.
So moving away from that, I experienced that, and I think I got a couple more mushrooms after that, and just to amplify my experience, and that amplified throughout. Like, it was a priceless moment. The amount of love, the amount of radiant, true feelings that you actually have within yourself that you want to share with the folks and you want to share with people is astonishing. So what has happened, I experienced my first trip, and then I started getting more into, okay, let me do some research more about, like, what are the different types of mushrooms? What were the mushrooms that I consumed? And I believe those were penisenvia. And penisenvia are very, very visual. They give you that synesthesia, they give you the feelings, and less about, like, the insights. And pretty much,
Hmm.
what has happened moving forward, we rewind a couple of months after that, and I believe that was my first experience was somewhere in 2019. We fast forward a couple of months after that, I started to practice that more and more, and pretty much that was, I believe, that was the realm also around the time when I met my wife. And when we were preparing for that trip, like, now I already did my research, and pretty much now I created certain ground rules that are going to be all up for us in order to create an experience that are going to be much more suitable for us to experience it in full, have a safe space around us, and have the proper intention. The key to this experience is always to set an intention, because your intention is what is going to help to open up whatever your soul wants to show you. So the mushrooms are connecting with the universe and your soul, and pretty much allow you to experience what you set an intention for. If you set an intention, hey, I want to heal, just as an idea, I want to heal my headache that I have today. you set that intention. So that's what you're going in with. You will be able to heal because the mushrooms are going to go into your body and they're going to focus on what you set your mind intention. If you have a pain in a particular place or an area, it's going to go towards that direction. And that is something that is going to be shown to you through your psychedelic trip experience. And that pain or that knot, that could be a muscle knot or a pain in your neck, whatever it is, that could actually come from what the things that you just said is your past traumas. So if you don't heal your past traumas, you may have a cancer, you may have a bulging gut, you might have an issue or something that comes to your life for the fact that you haven't actually unlearned or fixed something in your life that's within you in order for you to expand that. And in order for you to actually dedicate yourself towards, hey, let me fix this issue, which was a traumatic moment between my mom and my dad, and you saw that moment, and that moment got your body so intense. So for the rest of like 15, 20 years, you're constantly intense and you're constantly, your back could be intense or something like that. And then that is reflected in your physiological experience. This is why when I said in the beginning, what psychedelics do, they bridge the gap between your physiological and your material world and your spiritual world. So there has to be a connection at all times.
Well, with that in mind, that's one of the things that scares me because I'm gathering from what you're saying, I could be wrong, and I've also gathered from what some of the other guests have shared that A, like you explicitly said, intention setting is important, but B, what intentions you set are important too. It's not enough to just set an intention. It's important to be mindful about what that intention is. And my fear around this is that I'll go in there and either waste my opportunity by setting some intention that is ridiculous, or I will set an intention that is somehow ego-driven or somehow setting me up for an experience that is itself traumatic. So when it comes to setting an intention, what are your thoughts about how I can actually set an intention in a way so that the experience is a great one or one that brings meaning to my life and the lives of others?
So you can prep. I would say you can prep. Before the experience, the more prep you can do with your mind, your body, you're conditioning yourself mentally. Because for me, certain mushrooms have a mental effect on you, and they are very intense. And you might not even, if you're not experienced enough in the psychedelic realm, you might freak out. And that's what you want to do. That's why you want to do all of the prep. So whenever you're coming into your first experience, your objective, like you said, we set an intention, but then we set the right intention. The day before or the day off or the day before, what you can also do as your step one of prep is pretty much like write down your thoughts. Write down all of your thoughts that you are thinking about that might be effective in, let's say, in a negative way. Let's say I am afraid of death. I am afraid of crocodiles. I'm afraid of this. So you write those things, right? You write those things, and then on the other, I mean, but it's literally the biggest thing that we need to break is going to be fear, because that fear is your differentiation of your experience. If you have fear, that is going to affect your experience. If you don't have fear, that is not going to affect your experience, and you're going to be exploring the journey. So there are two ways on how to enter the space. First step, you can set an intention and be more of, hey, I am setting my intention. I am here. I'm grateful. Thank you, universe, for this opportunity. But my intention is going to be show me what I need to see. and you're just open. You're relatively open, but you're coming in with no fear. You're more of asking, hey, show me what I'm going to experience. It's more of like taking a plane to, let's say you're going to Paris or Germany, if you've never been to that city. It's like, it's similar to that. It's like taking that ticket, you're going to getting on the plane or a train, you're flying to that new city and you're exploring. You're literally exploring. Your intention, the intention that you said is to explore. But then there's the second way, right? And the second way, let's say you have an issue with your father, your mother, your grandmother, whatever that issue is, and you're setting that intention to close that gap. It's, imagine as if you're, let's say you are a 16-year-old and you know that you're past your curfew and you know that it's 10 o'clock, right? And you were supposed to be there at 8. So think about it, like when you're coming in at 10 or 11 and you know that there's going to be a reaction coming in from whoever is expecting you on the other end, mother, father, grandparent, whoever. But you're already anticipating, which means you're creating a situation that might come to fruition, which might be real. They might be angry. Oh, I'm past my curfew. They might be angry. So it's similar when you're setting that intention. Let's say you want to fix something, but you're setting that intention of fixing it, but you're afraid of it. That's what you might materialize, and your trip might actually be a bit scary. So there are two trips that you might receive. You might have a good trip, you might have a bad trip, and it all depends on which way you want to go. So in order for you to, let's say, avoid the bad trip, be as clean as possible throughout the day. Eat properly or even light. So, for example, you're going to be coming in. This is going to be your first experience. I would actually suggest you to do it fasting. Meaning that's the only food that you're going to consume. So you're consuming water during the day, but the first thing that you're going to be consuming is going to be only mushrooms, and that's it. And the cleaner the mushrooms are, the better. So you're not mixing it in the chocolate. You're not mixing it with other sugars, carbs, yada yada yada. Like the cleaner the process is, the better it is for you, and the more divine the experience is going to be for you, because it's all about that divinity and going away from fear. So that's why I brought the two examples. If you are setting an intention of something bad is going to happen and you're past your curfew, that might drive you towards your bad trip. But then it's, at the same time, if you're setting an intention, hey, let me buy this plane ticket and I'm going to Puerto Rico, I have never been, you're just going with the flow. So those are the two. Like when you're coming to your first experience, that would be the two ways on how I would look at it. And then there are more things that you can do to prepare. You want me to continue telling you more?
Well, yes, but before you do that, let me ask you a question about fear. Thank you for giving me the chance to insert this. Is it normal for part of the fear that I have not to be of what the journey itself will expose, but of what might happen to me during or after the experience? For instance, some sort of damage to who I am or what I am, some sort of profound shift in my identity. You yourself said earlier there was before the trip and then there's after the trip. What if my fear is that I will go into the experience and then leave viewing the world through this different lens and feel alienated? God forbid, just throwing out here my secret fear, my gravest fear, is that I would have some sort of enlightenment and then want to leave my spouse behind and divorce and disrupt my whole life. How do you deal with those sorts of fears, and how does that relate to how you set your intention?
I would say if you are afraid of what you just said, divorce, and how you're looking at the perspective of your wife in a different way, I would say after your first experience, you are going to be the one advocating for your wife or your spouse to come in and actually experience it with you. Because I am telling you, after the first one, you are going to be so fascinated about what you just felt, saw, experienced. I mean, imagine you have an ability to see color, it's blue. But now imagine you have an ability to feel the color. It's a completely different thing. Feeling and knowing with your body is a completely different thing than you thinking with your mind. So those are the two things. What happens when we're ingesting mushrooms, it goes to our number one brain, which is our gut. Not our brain, our gut. Our gut goes, it receives all of the knowledge, all of the basis of what mycelium has captivated over the years. And if you think about it, mycelium and everything that is inside of those mushrooms has been here for years and millions of years. We die today, extinction happens, mushrooms are still going to be here. Fact. So this is why when you consume that first experience and you consume that first realm of the trip that you're going to experience, I would say, write down all of your fears, right? You're getting into it. Write down all of your fears.
Right.
And then write on the second piece of paper, write down all of your exciting things. And then look at those fears and just from a logical perspective, just as a human being, write down the things and like, why are you afraid? Answer the question, why? Like, why are you afraid of death? Why are you afraid of divorce or getting a spouse? Or why are you afraid of there's going to be a different human being? And answer those questions, why? Because once you go down that pathway of understanding and going why one, why two, why three, why four, you will start seeing that those elements are not that important. Like those, it's, you can pinpoint your fear. Once you can pinpoint your, for example, people are afraid of dying because they want to live immortally, but they are not even aware of the fact that their soul is immortal. Like your soul is an immortal thing. My body is a vessel. I can die today, but my soul is going to be reincarnated in depending on what I've been doing in this world, life, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're all part of the same life source, which is God. And when we understand that you can get connected to God, you can actually feel God, you can see God, you can be part of this whole oneness. That's called bufo. That's something that I want you to research after. That's when you go to mushrooms, psychedelic trips, and then you want to go straight from, you're bypassing ayahuasca and you're going to like 5 times to ayahuasca. You want to see the source. That would be bufo. So that's another subject matter that we can talk about. But coming back to mushrooms, first things first, I would say relieve any thoughts of fear. So write down all of the thoughts that might be fearful in your mind. But the point is, it's here in between your two eyes. It's in your mind.
That's so helpful. Yes.
And to add to that, when you're coming to the experience, one thing that I also always tell to all of the practitioners or anybody that is administering mushroom experience with us, the number one thing that I always tell people is be in peace and know that you're safe. Like before coming to the experience, you need to know that you're safe. Your space around you, you're safe. People around you, you're safe. And whatever is going to be happening, you just need to have that cap mentally prior to coming in that you're safe. Because once you're in the journey, I believe you're going to be with somebody that is going to be guiding you through the process. There might be sound healing involved,
yes,
like different modalities of the experience.
Yes.
That is going to ease you and pretty much create a journey through sound, through inflections of vibes, light, everything that you're going to see is going to be an experience. It's like it's like having a dirigeor. It's like having the conductor conduct you through the trip. That's what shamans are. Shamans are there to guide you through the experience. And when they know or see that you're going off somewhere, or maybe bad juju or bad energy is around you, they're going to feel it because they're part of this experience as well. They usually tune in, and they tune into your energy, and they would know what they need to do in order to guide you or help you.
Uzo, how can I tell if the space that I'm walking into, particularly the physical space, but I imagine associated with that the psychological space that you're walking into, is going to be a safe one?
How? It's, well, you do your homework prior to that because you need to identify where you're going to go. So let's say it's going to be at a sanctuary. So you do your research. What is the sanctuary? Where it's located? What are going to be the weather conditions? Are you guys going to be outside? Are you guys going to be inside? So you think about all of those things. Think about it.
Mm.
This is an event. This is an event, so you do your prep. You know, what do I need to take? Do I need to take my mat with me? Do I need to take my bag? Do I need water? So all of those things, you ask a lot of questions. You ask a lot of questions in order for you to get ready and prepared. And then once the day comes, you are ready. All you need to think about is setting your intention and be focused on this trip. This is like I usually when we administer experiences with my wife, it's more of that day for us is like it's our day. So it's our family day. It's our retreat. We do it together. We experience it together. But that's our. I dedicate 6 hours of my life to this particular day, and I say this is the time when I have an ability to actually speak to myself, not anybody else. One of the main ground rules that I like to make when we have these experiences is no speaking, like no communicating until we're done, or like in creating a set ground rule, meaning let's say for the next hour, next we start the experience at 1, we're done at 7. So at 7 o'clock, I'm going to be speaking to whoever is going to be around me, but I am not going to interact in any conversation. Why? Because anything that I am going to say to an individual is going to affect their trip. Any vocal, any word,
Fascinating.
any expression is going to add, or is going to either add to the trip or subtract from the trip. And this is what I don't like to do. I don't like to interfere with anybody's trip, and I don't like when people interfere with my trip, because I can be experiencing everything so purely, so divine, and it could be so intense, and I don't want any words or any visuals that are going to be affecting me, because I am having that direct connection with the source.
I'm so glad you said that. Honestly, that would have been something that never even occurred to me to think about. You said there were a few other things earlier before I took us down these rabbit holes that we should, or that I should begin to think about as I prep for this first journey. So start to just shoot out some of the other things that you were going to say before I, oh, so rudely took the conversation in my own direction.
No, 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 it's all good. So so let's say you're prepping, you've done your homework, you're prepping, you're setting your intentions. Now you're coming to the space, and pretty much based on who your facilitator is going to be. Usually, all of the facilitators are very experienced in this field. They're probably popping mushrooms on a regular basis, from micro dosages to bigger dosages. It just depends, and pretty much microdosing, it helps you on a pace, let's say throughout the month, through the year. It just keeps you in a positive, good realm
Mm.
experience that just mind like it helps your mindfulness. But then when you go and jump, let's say, how many grams are you going to be doing for your first experience? Have you found that out?
That's something that I am sort of gathering from what you just said that I'll need to discuss with the shaman that I'm working with in advance.
Yes, yes. So you need to identify, you're doing 1 gram, you're doing two, or you're doing three. So if you go, I believe 3.5, that's, yeah, 3.5 grams. I believe that was my last trip, and there was a last trip of Enigma mushrooms. So it brought me into a space, and it was a very intense space. It's something that I can only, like, I am going to create a package where I can have people experience it. But in order for you to experience it, I need to know that, hey, you either have done ayahuasca, or you have done other series of mushrooms before, like, or you've been in this field for maybe like several years, but you need to be experienced. Because if you take 3.5 to between 3.5 to 5, that's a heroic dose. And that dose literally shoots you out to the space, and you can be there for hours. Like, literally, you can be there for 6 7 hours, and you're trying to understand, who are these entities that you're talking to, what are
Mm.
these beings, what are these energies that are around you, why do you see like entities, people, like, you start seeing things that your regular eyesight is not capable of.
Wow.
Just even ingesting a little bit of mushrooms, just ingesting a little bit of mushrooms increases your pupils, and that means your information source of the information that you receive through your eyes increases. So the amount of information that your brain is processing is increased by a magnitude of 5 to 10 at least. And pretty much all of the information from the colors, from the flavors, from the information that you're receiving, you're more in tune with your inner soul, or your inner voice that is constantly speaking to you. Like right now, you're thinking, but your voice is speaking to me without even saying anything, but I know that you're speaking. And even the people that are in the audience right now that are going to be listening to this, they're also constantly talking. So in order for you to actually listen to this voice, that's what mushrooms also help you to do. When you come into the space, you take your potion, depends on how it's going to be prepared. You take it in, and then it's your moment to literally be in stillness. It's your moment to actually talk to yourself. You want to remember memories from your past childhood. You can actually go to, it was 1991 at 6 o'clock when I received that slap. And you're like, I
Wow.
feel it like it was today. And you can understand that, hey, your biggest trauma came from that experience at 1991 at 6 o'clock for XYZ reason. And that's something that you can actually outtake from this. That's the insight that might come in either during the trip or after the trip. And after the trip, usually you will still have a prolonged effect where it lasts still several days, and it follows you through because you will constantly receive insights from your own self, which comes from your two places, which is your brain and your gut. But both of them feel and have memories that are going to be, you will be able to resolve those memories, or you will be able to accept, experience, and forgive. It's coming to that closure. Sometimes in order for us to move forward, we need to have closure. And maybe we didn't have that conversation. Or maybe we didn't say I
Yeah.
forgive you, that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't say I forgive you or I love you 30 years ago. And that's something that is holding you as a grudge, something that's holding you as that rock. Sometimes people walk around, they're like, oh my God. They are physically deformed. They're physically deformed because they're holding either grudges, they're holding pain, they're holding things that are not supposed to be there, or they're not even theirs. Like, that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's like you might be holding something that does not even belong to you. It might belong to your mother, your father, but you're holding on to it as if this is your duty or your obligation. But we need to be able to divide that. So once you break that barrier off, hey, I'm a human being, I am connected to the divine source. Now I have an ability to actually open my mind and see other things from a different perspective, have a visual aspiration and admiration for what I see, and then have a feeling. This is why when you set an intention and when you create the experience and you prep for it, the best way is for you to be in nature, because you get grounded to the nature, you get grounded to the floor. You start seeing how trees are talking to you. You start seeing how the grass is moving and there are waves in the grass. Our normal eyes don't see it, but when you have the synesthesia, you have more information that is coming to you, and you start feeling more. You start you instead of thinking where it goes, your mind, your sight, your touch, your smell. It's a process. If I touch my screen, if I touch you, it's a process. I have done a touch, like I touch, then it's a process for it to go to my mind. Okay, I made the touch. It's a process. But then when you're in the space and you're in your trip, you're feeling everything at the same time. And it's not like you need to touch something in order for it to give you a feeling. You can look at it and you can already see and feel it from the far, because you have that telepathic connection with everything. We're a vibration, and everything functions on a frequency level. So when we go deep to understand that every single thing around us is a vibration, and we can administer our trips and actually go into different realms through sounds, through sound healing, through different modalities that you can do while you're in your trip, that elevates you, that takes you on a different parts of your journey. You can start seeing mandalas, you can start seeing different things, you can start seeing beings that you have never seen, but you now know that they're right next to you at all times, like your guardian angels and things like that. So it's removing your fear of the unknown and turning on the ability to learn what's out there. It's like going into the ocean and just starting swimming.
Wow.
Once you start swimming, you start to identify and see things from a perspective that you've never seen before.
Wow. Well, so you touched on something briefly earlier that I want to swing back and make sure that we don't let go, and that is the integration process. I assume, and this what I'm about to say applies somewhat to the preparatory process as well. I assume I don't go to work 9 o'clock that morning, do my job, check out at 5, hop in my car, drive to the forest where my shaman is going to be meeting me, do my journey, then hop back in my car, go home, and get back to work the next day as if nothing happened. How do I plan my time? Like, should I take a day or two off in advance, assuming I'm not traveling anywhere? I assume if I'm traveling somewhere, I need to account for that. And then how should I think about the time after the experience? Should I take a day or two off? Should I have my spouse with me after the experience? If so, when should the spouse come back in? Should I have a week off? Should I take a month off? What if I suddenly feel an urge to drop everything I'm doing and go to the Amazon and never be seen again in the Western world?
Everything is applicable. It's funny that what you just said. Everything can happen. Like every single thing that you just mentioned could happen, and it all depends on what that connection and revelation is going to come to you. But based on, let's say this is going to be your first trip, and it's going to be a relatively intermediary trip that is more of like an introduction. You probably are going to do 2 grams, and with those 2 grams, you should be fine. It's going to be an element of experience where, before, as you're prepping for this, I would say give yourself several hours so that you're not thinking of work. You don't need to think about work. You want to have a clear mind. You want to have an ability to have a simple, clear mind. Do a couple of reps of yoga, like a couple of sets, so that you can just like stretch your body, feel in your body. Like, your objective is to, whatever's work you're doing for that day, just end it early. Let's say, for example, if you have a full day of work and your session is scheduled for 6 o'clock, okay, finish your work by 12, and give yourself that 6 hours of time to just like be with yourself. Prep, go take a shower, prep yourself, think about the things that you want to set the intention, and be positive, and always constantly think in the positive realm. Positivity yields more positivity, and when you go in with a positive mindset, you yield a positive trip. Yes, you might have, if you have been damaged, or you have issues that are, let's say, generational, that came from your early childhood, that might be something that will pop out on your first trip, but it might not even pop up on the first trip. Your first trip could be a fully blissful trip, one of the most beautiful experiences, with no insights. The insight might come in after. You might just experience the most beautiful period of time between you and connecting to the nature and the environment that you're in, because it's the moment of being present. It's you and your soul. It's like you have an ability to separate yourself from your physical self. And then that's prep. So prep, get yourself ready, clear out your schedule. Don't go right after work. That your mind is still going to be wired with work.
Thank you.
So you
I
want
would
to have
do something like that, by the way.
Yeah, you want to have a much more clear mind. Have a clear mind. You come into the experience, you experience it, and that experience probably is going to be between 3 to 6 hours. Just depends on the shaman and the dosage that you're receiving. And then as soon as you're done with the trip, what is going to happen? You are going to have lots of insight, and you will know that you are down with it. It's similar to, like, if you have smoked pot, or if you have drank alcohol. You know when you're peaking, and you know when you're like, okay, I'm coming down. You will feel this. You will feel the same thing. You're like, okay, I'm coming down. I'm coming down back to my senses. Okay, great. I am whole. I am safe. I am loved. I can go sit down in my car and go home. You can easily do that. It's not going, like, it's not really going to interfere, but like after 6 hours, it's going to change. And then what I would suggest is have a notebook once you're home, or maybe even when you have the trip, but have a notebook and a pen. notebook with pen, and just make notes. You have a thought, it comes into your mind. Instead of vocalizing it to somebody, just write it down. Right, you have another thought, write it down.
Mm.
You have a memory of your childhood past, a childhood trauma, and you identified how that affected you. Write it down, and then, for example, if it's something that you need to confront, you have an ability to confront because you wrote it down and you know that it's important to you. And then you go to that person, the situation, whatever that action is, and you confront it, you resolve it, but you resolve it by vocalizing it so that it's heard and you have that closure because you just expressed yourself. You might not receive closure from the other entity or the person or whatever. That might just open up a kind of like conversations or something new. But at the same time, that is going to it's going to be something that you will be able to let go. It's all about letting go, and it's pretty much when we do yoga, it's, when we take a deep breath, we hold it, and then we release. And when we release with our breath, that's the tension that we want to let go. You do the same thing with mushrooms. That's the tension that might be in your past, but you want to let go moving forward. So after your experience, I wouldn't say you should be fearful about the fact that you are going to change your views on a lot of things. You will
Right.
still have you. You will still have you, but you'll have a new you on top of it. So your past you you will still have those experiences, feelings, thoughts, so on and so forth. But now new you is going to look at new things. For example, the biggest thing that happens with people when they consume mushrooms, they quit drinking alcohol because those two do not go with each other. And
Fascinating.
pretty much, and it's very fascinating because one of my biggest components, like I haven't been drinking since me starting utilizing mushrooms on my regular basis. Like I don't drink. I don't have any drive towards it, and I have no even interest. And if we think about alcohol, alcohol from Latin is poison. So what we're consuming is something that, yes, it gives us loose. It gives us, that feeling of like a little high and, social. We become socially yeah, we become socially loose. We become socially comfortable, confident. Like that confidence gets into us when we drink alcohol. But then it's not, it's blurring your senses and it's blurring your mindfulness of being in the moment. And what mushrooms do, mushrooms open up that mindfulness and they see the bullshit. Literally, they will, like, your vision after this experience, you will be able to see the bullshit as clear in mind. Like it's going to be, this is black, this is white. There's no gray area. Gray area for you is going to be like, no, 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 no. You guys are living in the gray area. I see white, I see black. I like white, and I go on the white direction. That's all. If I need to dabble into a little bit of black because I need to do something, because it's all energy, there is shadow work, there is light work, and they're all intertwined with each other, you can do that. But then at the same time, it's having an ability to see, this is my white perspective, this is my black perspective. But the gray area, mm, you're not going to be you're not going to be dabbling. I mean, from my personal experience, you're not going to be really dabbling. And then with the people around me that are also administering mushrooms and things like that, a lot of them are the same way. It's like we find like-minded people thinking about like-minded things, and we can discuss the like-minded events of our lives accordingly. And pretty much for me currently, if I come into a bar, I will see everybody drinking by default. I have lots of my friends that are still drinking. That's cool. That's their choice. But
Right.
for me, a lot of times, if I see people drinking and then they have a can of Coke and this and that, I'm like, we kind of are in two different realms of experience in life
Mhm.
and pretty much consuming, because you're going to become very conscious about what you consume, what do you eat, how do you speak to people, what do you do to people, how do
Wow.
people react when you exchange. Like you become
Mhm.
more sensitive after the experience. You can become more sensitive to what other people, how other people, you know portray themselves towards you versus vice versa. Because when we have a conversation with other people, we're projecting ourselves, our thoughts, our minds, our ego onto them. But the more mushroom trips you do, the lesser your ego becomes. And the lesser your ego becomes, the less you want to do based on what your material physical
Mm.
self wants. You start doing things based on what your soul wants, what your soul
Mm.
wants to do, what your goal is by the soul. Like you start discovering like what is your mission as a human? What lesson are you going
Mm.
through in this realm, in this period of time, from the moment you were born, place where you were born, the family you're around, and how from this um, capsule of place where you were born in your environment, and how do you go to where you are today? Like you start analyzing this full journey, you start seeing that journey. That journey is beautiful because every single year something new, new knowledge, new wisdom, new opportunity, new conversation comes in. But at the same time, when you're progressing through life, at the moment when you start experiencing psychedelic experiences, you start to experience the world in a completely new world. You start looking at like, why is religion doing similar things that we would do in a spiritual psychedelic world, but then at the same time we have so many people that are following this
Mm-hmm.
religion in particular,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Catholicism. And then most of these traditions actually take the spiritual practices, the spiritual drinks, and then convert them. Hey, let's have a wine. For example, like Catholics, they do bread and wine
Right.
as your sacrament. But
Right.
then at the same time, if we go come down to a factual things, the bread and wine is pretty much, they are mimicking to what the psychedelic trip was thousands of years ago, because the drink that they were drinking was a psychedelic drink that would give them those insights, that would give them those enlightenments. And whether it was buffalo, like it's different in different part of the world, it's all a different plant that people usually consume, but at the end of the day, the results are similar. The result is, hey, how do I connect with my soul? How do I connect with the universe? And how do I make myself better on a daily basis?
This has been unbelievably informative, thought provoking, and honestly, I'm so glad we've had this conversation. Before we close out our discussion today, there's one final question that I wanted your thoughts on. We've talked about how I can prepare for my first journey. Are there any words of wisdom that you have for spouses or family members who may be around us, not partaking of this journey, but who are wanting to be there and support us as we go along the way? Are there any things that they need to know or anything that they need to do in order to be there for us?
Yes, there are two things. First, give unconditional love. It's very important. Many people forget about this component, but unconditional love is when you can look at a person and you can love them for who they are without inflecting your own personal agenda on them, or your fears, or your anticipations. Love unconditionally, but let them be and let them experience. And then two, pass on no judgment. You cannot have any judgment on an individual that is going to go on the journey in order to discover something new for themselves. If the individual spouse, family member, support group, they're not interested in participating, cool, that's your choice. So the choice that is given is made by you is not the same choice that is going to be done by the person who is going to be experiencing the trip. And it's very important to differentiate the two. People a lot of times utilize their own personal judgment to gauge, for example, your experience or an experience of a different individual, or let's say any situation. And you shouldn't be looking at it from your own spectrum and prism, but you should be anticipating to find out what is the other person feeling, because once you are interested in learning that, that information is going to be thought provoking to you to actually experience the same thing.
That's very, very helpful. I suspect it will be a challenge for some family members, but maybe that's part of the growth process and the journey that that couple is on together. If there is anything that I've taken away from our conversation today, Uzo, it is the importance of setting the intention carefully, focusing on the positive, and being prepared for a completely new perspective on the world that we're walking through and our journey through this world. Once that first journey is over, I'm excited about it. I won't say that I'm not still a little bit nervous, but by giving me some tools, and by the way, giving people who are listening to or watching this and may be at a similar place and space in their own lives, tools to set themselves up for success or set themselves up at least for the most meaningful experience possible. You've provided a massive service to this world. Is there any last word that you would like to have before we close out?
The most important thing, people, is to identify and listen to your soul. Listen to your soul and give people love unconditionally, because that is one of the most powerful tools that you can learn to manage within yourself, because it's manageable. And when people say, oh, I cannot love, or I don't believe in love, that's because they have not worked through those traumas. Once you work through those traumas, you'll be shocked how much love you can give. And it's all about giving. Love is giving, giving and giving. And universe rewards you for giving.
It's funny because a wise martial arts master that I used to train under used to say, if you want friends, be a friend. If you want love, give love. And what you're saying is taking that advice to an entirely different level. Uzo, how can people find out more about you?
Oh, they can easily find me by go to Google and type in Uzo Udu or DJ Uzo. Simple. You'll have all of my information, whether it's going to be SoundCloud, Spotify, website, whatever. And you can also find me every Miami Art Week on the beach, Miami Surf Comber Hotel. We're going to be there. We're going on year number 3 for Unrevealed, December 6th to December 10th. I am going to be there every single day. Come and join us and learn more about how we work with psychedelics, how we work in the Web3 space, and how we get our mind and body and soul ready throughout that full week during Miami Art Basel.
And I have to say, you may have just, quote unquote, forced some people to make some unexpected plans for their Decembers. Good for you, Uzo.
Right?
Now, for those of you who've been listening or watching, keep tuning in, because very soon we will be experiencing together my first journey. And Uzo, thank you for being such an instrumental part of it. If you've enjoyed today's episode and want to learn more, be sure to subscribe on your favorite audio platform or on YouTube, and either leave a positive review or a comment if it's on YouTube. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, as well as going and signing up for our blog, where you will be able to get the most accurate, unbiased, and scientifically sound information on plant medicine and psychedelics that there is on the web. Furthermore, perhaps most importantly, if you've gathered meaning from today's episode or any of our episodes, be sure to tell those that you care about what we're doing so that they can go in the journey too, learn, and be informed. You can find us at webdelics.com. That's WEBDELICS.com. And be sure to tune in again for the next episode of the Webdelics podcast.